Hello, good morning. Welcome back. Last class we finished overloading, function overloading. So hope you have understood that. Today's class will start with inline functions. So before that, we'll just go through how exactly the program gets executed. First, you open your TC, then you will write a program. So any program you can write, and with .c, any C++ program you write, and then you save it with .cpp extension. So after writing any program, first it has to be compiled to check for errors, and then if there are no errors, it gets converted into an executable code, which is then executed, right? The executable code is then executed. What does the OS do? The OS loads the instructions into the computer memory for execution, and each instruction is stored in a specific memory location. Fine. So when a function call instruction is encountered, so whenever you have to execute a function, you need to call it. So when a function call instruction is encountered, the compiler stores the memory address of the instruction immediately following the function call statement. That is, see, there is a function call, so you need to store the address of that function call, and then it loads the function that is being called into the memory and executes it. And if there are any arguments, so it will copy the value of the arguments and jumps from the memory location of the function call to the function and executes the code, stores the return value of the function, and after executing, and if there are any return values, storing the return value, it jumps back to the address of instruction that was being saved just before executing the function call, right? Because from that location it needs to continue executing, right? This is what it happens. Like there's a function call, it stores the address of that, then jumps to the function which is being called, executes it, and returns back to the place of the function call and proceeds executing further. So in an inline function, what happens is it provides an alternative. With inline function, the compiler replaces the function call statement with the function code itself. So in the place of the function call, the function code itself is placed, and this process is called expansion. So thus the compiler does not have to do the long time consuming process of jumping, storing the address of the function call, jumping to the function and returning back and continue executing. What it will do? It will save the overhead of a function call when it is invoked, because in the place of the call, the code of the function itself gets replaced. So that is a function whose body is inserted at the place of the function call. Hope you have understood this. Next, we'll go through the general syntax of it. Inline function is declared with the help of keyword inline. So here this inline, I is in a lower case, because again all the keywords are in lower case. Inline, then what is the return type of the function? This is how I declare a function, right? Inline only is a keyword which states that it is an inline function. Again, it is a hint to the compiler to make it. If there is available memory, it will make it as inline. Otherwise, it is not considered as an inline function. It will be treated as a normal function. And the return type of the function, like what type of value the function is going to return, function name and argument list if any, and then you have a written expression here if the function is returning any value. This is the general syntax of an inline function. Hope you have understood what is the difference between an inline function and a normal function. Like a normal function, whenever a function call is encountered, what happens is the control skips from the function call to the place of the function, it gets executed and then gets back, like from the called function to the from the calling function to the called function and back. Whereas an inline function, the place in the place of the function call, the body of the function itself gets substituted. So it is gets placed, that is also called as expansion. So we'll start with the program now. What do we need to do? We need to find the cube of a number using inline functions. So we'll start with our hash include statements. iostream.h hash include conio.h. After that, I will write the inline function. So how do I say it's an inline function? It's with the keyword inline. So inline is written in lowercase, then the return type of the function int, then the name of the function cube, and argumentless. So let me pass an integer argument to it and I will write this. This is the function header. Inline int cube int a. That is, I am going to pass an integer value to the function cube and it is going to return an integer value. And we are asking the compiler to make it as an inline function. Return a star a star a. Fine. So where will this return? It will return to the calling function. And this one is the called function. Fine. And it has to be noted, inline functions has to be small functions. It should not have iterative statements and it should have static allocation. I cannot have dynamic memory allocation over there, and it should not be big programs. It should be a small one. And what is a here? A is the formal parameter. Then after that, I need to write my main. Void main. So clear screen, and now I need to have an integer value, because let me have it as n, because I need to first take in the value and then only I can pass it, right? Cout enter a number. Cin n. Now I need to call this function. Since the function is going to return a value, either I can write it with a cout statement if I have to print the result there, or I need to have one more variable of type integer. Then I have to store the return value there and print it. So let me put this in a cout statement. How will I do that? Cout cube of, let me say n, and then the function call over here, cube of n, then get ch, close my main. So what does this statement? First of all, what am I doing here? Clear screen, int n. I am declaring an integer variable. Why? Because I need to first take in the value from the user and then I need to pass it. Fine. Cout enter a number. So I am asking the user to enter a number. Cin n. I am taking the value in n, and then this would be printed as it is, cube of, and n, whatever is the n value, that number would be printed here, and then this is the function call. Function call, and this is the actual parameter. And it has to be noted, see, when you are calling a inline function, you don't specify it as inline. Only when you are writing the definition of it, you write here inline, correct? Please make a note of that you don't write it while the function call, only the function name along with the argument list you pass, but when you are defining that function, you are writing the inline keyword. After that, what happens is, this n is an integer value. Okay, what is the function signature of this? That is cube. Sorry, this is a function call, right? How many variables are there? Parameters? There are only one parameter. So here only one parameter is there. I am passing one parameter, that is n. And what is the data type of it? It is integer. Here also it is integer. So number and the data type should match, the name need not match. So here n can be there, here a can be there, that doesn't matter. Only thing is the number and the data type should match. So n is also integer and I am passing one argument. Here also I have only one argument and it is of type integer. So whatever is the value of n gets substituted in a and it returns the cube of a here, and the output gets printed here, whatever is returned from the function, and then you get this one. Please make a note of this. This is also your practical program, and if you write this much, you would be getting full marks. So inline, return type, name of the function and the argument list and the return expression. Now we will go through the advantages and disadvantages. Again, this is also an exam asked question. What is the advantages? The size of the object code is considerably reduced. It increases the execution efficiency. Yes, it increases how? Because it reduces the overhead of the function call, that is jumping from the function call to the function to be executed, going back, that need not be there. Or in the place of the function call itself, the body of the function is there. So with that jumping from call to calling and back is from the calling to the called and back is not there. There is no burden on the system for function calling, and it saves the overhead of return call from the function. So these are the advantages of inline functions. Now disadvantages. May increase the function size, it may not fit in the memory, because normally a function call is there, but here what you are doing, in the place of the function call, the function body, that is the entire function, gets substituted, or it is also called as expansion. So it will increase the size of it and it may not be fit in memory. That is what I told you, like it is the hint to the compiler to make it as inline. If memory is available, it will do it, otherwise it will be treated as a normal function. Getting it? And if it is used in a header file, so it may make the file very large and many a times it becomes unreadable. Why does it increase the size? Because in the place of the call, that gets substituted, and then if I am calling the function 10 times, so in each place of the function call, the body of the function gets substituted. So it may increase the size and it may not fit in the, it will increase the size and it may not fit in the memory. Have a look. So this completes our inline function. Then we will be starting with friend functions. Before moving on to friend functions, let me do one more example program on inline function. Okay. So let me write one more inline function example which makes use of an inline function to return the max of two numbers. Okay. So let us write an inline function to return the max of two numbers. How do I start it? With hash include iostream.h conivo.h. Then I will write my inline function. So how do I write my inline function? With the keyword inline, return type of the function. So let us say it returns an integer value. Max is the name of the function to which I am passing two integer arguments. Int x, comma, int y. Why am I passing two integer arguments? Because I need to find the maximum of these two numbers. Whichever is the max number, I need to return. So, return x greater than y question mark x colon y. So what does it mean? It means this is a conditional or a ternary statement, right? Where x greater than y, if this expression 1, 2 and 3, if x greater than y is true, then it will return x, otherwise it will return y. So I am going to pass x and y to integers to it, what integer variables to it, and it will check whether x is greater than y or not. If x is greater than y, that is true, then it will return x. If it is false, then it will return y. And where x and y are the formal parameters. Okay, and now I will proceed with my main function. So void main. Okay, screen. I need to have two variables n1 and n2 of type integer, because I need to pass the two variables. So I need to ask the user to enter two variables, and I need two numbers. I need to store it. For that I need two integer variables. Cout enter two numbers. Cin n1 n2. Okay, so I am asking the user to enter two numbers, and this is cascading of input operators. That is, I am taking two values n1 and n2. Fine. After that, I have to call the function and pass these two to the function. Either, since the function is returning an integer value, I should have a third variable which will hold that value and I can print it, or what I can do is I can put it in a cout statement. Like if I don't want to store the return value, what I can do it is I can put it in a cout statement. So in the place of that function call, it will print me the return value, whatever is the value return. I'll put it in a cout statement because I will not be storing it and making use of it further. So how will I say? Cout the greater number between n1 and n2 equal is. Now I'll call the function. Okay. See here, enter two numbers. I am taking n1 and n2. Then what am I doing? The greater number between. See, when I am saying between, it's not the range. Between these two, whichever is the greater. So this one will be printed as it is, and then n1, the value of n1 what the user entered would be printed, and will be again printed as it is because I have written it in double quotes. N2 is the value is would be printed as it is, and then this is the function call, and this n1 and n2 are the actual parameters, correct? And this is the called function, and this is the calling function. Okay, say here, this is the calling function. I am calling that in main, and then this is the called function max. This is the function call. N1 and N2 are the actual parameters, and X and Y are the formal parameters. So when I say that, see, N1 and N2, X and Y, the name need not match, but the data type should match. So both X and Y are of type integer, N1 and N2 are also of the type integer. That is why, like, the value of N1 is substituted in X, value of N2 gets substituted in Y. For example, if N1 is 10 and N2 is 5, what happens here? X value would be 10, Y value would be 5. So 10 greater than 5, that is true or false? It is true. So the value of X, that is 10, is returned to this place and it gets printed. Please have a look. So this is how you write an inline function. Hope you are clear with inline functions now. Now we'll do friend functions. So before friend functions definition, like before we come to this, let us understand why do I need friend functions. Then we'll be able, this will make some sense. Fine. So let us say, for example, I have a class XYZ. Let the name of the class be XYZ. In that, in the private section of the class, I have int X, float Y. Okay, and then in the public section, I have void A and void B. Okay, so this is the end of my class. I have a class like XYZ, and the private section I have int X and int Y. These two are the data members of my class, and these two are the member functions. What are these two? Member functions, and these two are the data members. So it is declared in the private section, this is declared in the public section. So these two can access this? Yes, because the functions declared in the class, that is member functions of the class, can access the private data of the class. But the private data is not accessible outside the class. What do I mean by that? Like, suppose if I write main here, can I say I have to create an object. xz is the object, suppose. Then xz dot x is equal to 10. Can I do that? Because I want to assign a value to it as 10. So with the object dot the member is equal to 10. Can I do that? This cannot be done because it is the private data of the class. Whereas in function A, can I do x is equal to 10? Yes, it allows me because A can access the x variable. So this cannot access because outside the class it is not accessible. So hope I am clear here. That is, these two are the private data of the class. Only the members, methods declared in the class can access this. Outside the class with an object also, I cannot access the private data of the class. So now I have one standalone function C. Okay, a standalone function C is there. Standalone function means it is not a part of any class. So I have a standalone function C, and I don't want to make it as a part of the class. Like, I don't want to declare it here, I want it to be standalone only. But then I want it to access the private data of the class also, because as the rule, only the member function of the class can access the private data. Otherwise I have to put it in public so that it is accessible everywhere. But then I don't want to do that also. Like, I don't want it to be accessible to all the methods. Only one particular method I want it to access, and I don't want it to be a part of this class. So what I can do is I can make this as a friend. Okay. So you are hopefully getting what I am telling. Rule 1 is private data can be accessed by the members of that class only, methods of this class, but not outside the class. So if I want to make the data available to everything, I have to put it in public. But then when I put it in public, I will have no control where it is accessed. Anything can access by just creating an object. All the functions outside the class can access it. But then I don't want that also. I want a non-member, that is a standalone function, to access the private data, but I don't want all the other methods to access it, and then I don't want to make that as a member of the class. So that time you can make it as a friend. So a friend function is a non-member of the class, that is, it is not a part of the class, but will have the authorization of accessing the data similar to the member functions. So if I make C as a friend of the class XYZ, it does not belong to XYZ, but it can access the private as well as the protected data of the class. So that is called a friend function. A friend function is something which can access the private as well as the protected. Protected is similar to private for outside the class. The only difference between private and protected is, like, protected, the difference between private and protected is during inheritance the derived class can also access the private data and protected data, and protected data gets inherited, whereas private is neither inherited nor accessible outside. So C is a non-member function of this class. It is not a part of XYZ, but still, being a friend, it can access the private data of the class. That is called a friend function. So in cases where you want only certain functions which is not a part of the class should have the rights to access the private data of the class, then that time you can make it as a friend of that class. And then one function can have more than one friends, that is, it can be a friend to more than one class. We'll write two examples where we have one friend to one class, and then the same function in another program we will write a same function being friend to more than one class. Right? Now we will go back to the definition. What does it say? A function which has authorization to access the private and the protected members of a class, though it is not a member of a class. That is, it is a non-member of a class, but still it can access the private and the protected data. Such functions are called friend functions. And C++ also has the concept of friend classes. You can have friend classes also, but we have only friend functions for your syllabus. This is the, hopefully now the definition makes some sense. That is a function which is not a part of the class or a non-member of the class, but having rights as similar to the member functions of the class is a friend function. And then the general syntax is, the keyword is friend. Friend is a keyword which states that it's a friend, and the return type name of the class, and then here you need to pass the object of the class to which it is friend to. It takes an argument which is nothing but the object of the class to which it is friend to. Friend is a keyword which states that it is a friend, return type, function name, and class object. That is, you need to pass the object of the class to which it is friend to. And it can be declared either in the private or the public section of the class. The access specifiers does not matter. For a friend function, it remains the same. Like you can either write it in private or in public. It doesn't make any difference. So have a look. Then we'll write one example of this. So let us write an example. So we'll write a program to print bank account details of a customer using friend functions. So write a program to print bank account details of a customer using friend functions. Please make a note of the program statement. We'll be writing this program. So how will I start that? I will start with the hash include statements. Hash include iostream.h hash include conio.h. Then after that I will start with my class. So class is a keyword. Then let me write bank details only as the class name. So it is always better to give a relevant name so that by seeing it you will understand what it does. So I'll say bank details is the name of my class. Then private. See, it is like if you don't write anything also, it is private, but it is always a good practice to explicitly specify the access specifiers. So I will say private. In that I will have int account number char name of 30. So maximum 30 characters length. Float, balance. These are the three data members of my class, and in the public let me have void input is a function which will take in the details of this, and then one friend function I'll write for displaying the details. So how do I specify a friend function? Friend is the keyword. Return type of the function is void. Name of the function is display, and then I need to pass the object of the class to which it is friend to. So which is the class here? Bank. Bank details is the class, and then this is how, because I am specifying this here because I am going to pass the object of that. So this is how your class will look. Class bank details. In the private you have int account number, name, balance, and then in the public section you have friend the function, one friend function display, and another one is an input function. So this input function is a member function of the class bank details, whereas this is not a part of bank details, but it can access the data of this bank details, that is private data, because it's a friend of bank details. So just note it down, then we will write the functions. Now I have to start with the input function. Since input function is a part of the class, so how do I define it outside? Return type of the function, name of the class to which it belongs to, scope resolution operator, and name of the function. So return type of the function, name of the class to which it belongs to, and the name of the function. So what will I say? Cout enter your account number. And cin, what was the variable I had declared? Account number. Next, cout enter your name. Cin, what was the variable I had declared? Name. Capital N, right? Yeah. Next is cout enter balance. So, or you can say enter your account balance, or balance is fine. Close it. Enter cin so my function is over here. That is, I am asking the user to enter the account number. I am taking in the account number. I am asking the user to enter the name. I am taking. See, I can access the account number, name, and balance, which are the private data of the class, because input is a member function of the class. So make a note. Now I have to write for the friend function. So friend function is not a part of the class. That is why I will not write it as return type name of the class it belongs to, because friend function does not belong to the class. How will I write it? I will write it like a standalone function. So how do I write a standalone function? Return type of the function, name of the function, and then what was the parameter or argument I was passing? I was passing a object of the class bank details. So let B be the object, and you have to make a note here that when I am writing it, I will not write friend keyword here. It is only written in the class to which it is a friend to. Otherwise, it is outside, it is written as the normal standalone function. The return type, name of the function and the argument list. So, bank details B, where B is the object. Fine. In bank details, I need to print the data what I had taken in the input function. That is the account number, customer name and the balance I need to print. So, I will say Cout Cout, account details will be printed as it is, then enter. Here there is no space, so I have put it here. Fine. After that, what will I do? Cout account number. Now I need to access the variable. Which variable? ACCNO. So, you are using friend function. Since it is not a member, you cannot directly write ACCNO. You have to use object dot account number. Getting it? So, when you are accessing the private data using a friend function, you have to use object of that class which I have passed, B dot account number, not directly the account number. Getting it? Please don't make any mistake here. With a friend function, if you are accessing the private data, you have to use the object dot the data member to access it. It cannot be accessed directly, and I am passing the object here in the top. Then Cout name. Again, I need to use object dot the variable which holds the name. Cout account balance B dot balance, and I am closing my function here. See, when you are defining a friend function outside, you don't use the keyword friend, and when you are accessing the private data, you have to use the object dot then the variable name. Why? Because it is a non-member of the class, and I am passing the object here in the function header. Please have a look. Hopefully it is clear to you. Now I have to write my main function. How do I write it? Void main. Okay. After that, what will I do? After that, clear screen. Okay. Now I have to first create an object, correct? So, bank details, let the object be BB. Okay. Then I will use BB dot input, because input function I need to call first, and since it is a member of bank details, how will I call that? By using object dot the function will execute that. Fine. After that, to display, I have to call the standalone function, because display is not a member of the class. So when you are calling a standalone function, you don't use object dot. It is directly called. How do I do that? And then what is the argument I passed? The object of the class bank details. Got it? So this completes my function, main function and the program also. Now just like for example, I finish this thing. Now I want to add one more function. Like let me say I am writing one more standalone function before main. Okay. So tell me, like for example, if I say void test, like I am testing, because till now what did I do? I called it in main. Okay. Can I call this in some other function also, which is again not related to the class, by using a this way. Let CB be the object and bank details. In the one more standalone function I have, and name of it is test, and can I call it? And thing is bank details, and I have an object there. So can I call BC dot, okay, this is CB, okay, CB dot input and display CB. Can I do this? See, I have one more standalone function. I am not writing it as a part of any class, and the name of the function is test. In test, I am creating an object. How do I create an object? The name of the class space the object name. So let CB be the object I am creating. Can I do CB dot input? Yes, because input is a public member function, it is accessible outside. So when I say outside, it need not be always main. I can call it from any other function also, and here it allows me, because again it's a friend of that, but then I am passing an object. With the help of the object I can access it. Getting it? Please have a look. Hopefully you would have understood friend functions by this time. Now we will go through the properties of friend functions. It is also the characteristics of friend functions. A friend function, although not a member function, has full access rights to the private and the protected members of the class. We established that. That is, it is a non-member of the class, and still it can access the private and the protected members of the class. Otherwise, non-members, they cannot access the private or the protected data of the class. A friend function cannot be called using the object of that class. So how did I call the display function in the previous example? I called it as a standalone function like this. I did not use b.display, that is object.display I did not use, right? That is, you don't call it with object dot. You call the member functions of the class only with object and dot. Since the friend function is not a part of the class, you don't use object dot to call it. It is called as a standalone function. But then you need to pass the object of that. Friend function is declared by the classes that is granting access. That is what I told you, like a function can have more than one friend. So whichever class wants to make it as a friend, declare it as a friend and grant access. The friend declaration can be placed anywhere in the, that is, you can have it in the private section, public section. It is not affected by the access specifiers. That is, whether it's private or public, friend function is not a part of the class, so it doesn't matter where you write it, whether in the private or in the public. They are normal external functions that are given, like it is something like a standalone function or external function which is given access rights or privileges. That is, it's a normal external function which is given access rights or privileges similar to your member functions of a class. It cannot access member variables directly. It has to use the object. That is how we wrote, right? In display function, if you remember, we wrote for account number, object dot account number, object dot name, and object dot. That is the whatever is the object passed. That is, for example, here the object is B, means B dot ACCNO. I cannot directly write ACCNO. So a friend function cannot directly access the data. It has to use object dot the data member. So member functions, object dot the member function you have to call, but directly for accessing the data they directly access without object dot. Here a friend function cannot directly access it. It has to use object dot the variable name. A function is declared with the keyword friend, but while defining a friend function you don't. Yes, when I wrote display function, when I defined it, I never wrote friend void display. I just wrote void display, and then the argument was the object of the class bank details. So when you are using it, you are not using the keyword friend. Friend is only in the class to which you want to make it as a friend, and you can write it either in the public or a protected section, public, private and protected section of the class. Access specifiers do not matter. It cannot directly access the members. You need to use object dot the data member, and then it is not invoked by using object dot the function. Getting it? Please go through this again. It is a 5 marker. It can be asked as properties or characteristics of a friend function. Next, today's homework questions. What is an inline function? Write a simple program to illustrate it. When I say program, you have to write the entire program with #include statements. It's not just a code module. Otherwise, I'll explicitly specify it as code module. What are the advantages and disadvantages of inline functions? Advantages separately you write, disadvantages also. We actually discussed all this. And then what is a friend function, and write the characteristics. Characteristics is nothing but properties of friend functions. Hopefully you have understood this. Then in the next class we will write a program wherein one single function is a friend to 2 classes, and how do you access the data of both the classes and print it. We'll write that program, and then that would be the end of your function overloading chapter. Next we will start with constructor and destructors. So have a nice day. Take care. Bye bye.